I am with great pleasure to introduce the gentleman that actually introduced me to Harvey, and that's Ed Camp. And he is a mode remediation expert after Hurricane Harvey. This has been a major issue in the forefront of everyone's mind, and we are excited to have you here. I apologize, I don't know why I'm nervous, because I could talk a lot when I don't have a mic, okay? But anyway, Ed, if you would please, everybody please give him a hand.
Thank you. How many times do you think this chair's been cleaned? I left the mortgage industry after 20 years dealing with underwriters, and now I'm dealing with germs and bacteria, so it's basically a lateral move for me. Oh my God, I almost wore that shirt today, so y'all know I have two shirts. About 5 years ago, my daughter stayed at a Marriott hotel, an upscale hotel, and when I picked her up, I had to take her directly to a pediatrician's office. She had a rash all over her body. She had horrible diarrhea, and the doctor diagnosed her as having staph infection, dust mite poisoning, and C. diff. And C. diff is a intestinal bacteria that's very dangerous, and it all stemmed from an upscale hotel room. So I kind of, it spurred my curiosity to find out. I wasn't a germaphobe before, but I am now. But, you know, what makes us sick? And just recently, I partnered with someone who does germ testing, and we visited a retirement home and a doctor's office, and we did testing on very innocuous objects that you wouldn't think twice about touching and then touching your face. We tested an elevator button, a salt shaker, a stethoscope, the chair that you sit in when you draw blood. Guess what was the most contaminated item? The salt shaker. The salt shaker had 7,500 germs. You know, you go into a restaurant and you touch things. You go, you press an elevator button. That was number 2. Number 3 was the remote control. Number 4 was the stethoscope. Doctors don't clean their stethoscopes. 50% of health professionals carry MRSA. Therefore, 50% of people who go to hospitals walk out with MRSA, and there's no prescription that you can take. It's with you for the rest of your life. It just kind of festers in your body. So we come in contact with a lot of things, and I'm going to get around to Harvey in a second. There's a germ doctor in the University of Arizona that decided to test cars and cell phones. 150 pre-owned cars tested positive. 150 out of 150 had E. coli on the steering wheel. You know, where do you get that? We go to the bathroom. Every single cell phone he tested had E. coli on it. So, you know, how many times have we been somewhere and somebody says, here, take my phone and take a picture of us? You know, just no going in. I was at Moody Gardens, and there was a guy dressed in a costume, and the kids were taking pictures, and everybody was handing him the cell phone. I'm like, I have some hand sanitizer I'm going to give you. But we are contaminating ourselves, and not to spoil your lunch, but when I hear Harvey, I think of sewer water, because the homes that flooded, they flooded from rising sewer water, not from rainwater. And what they're finding in the sewer water is everything that I mentioned, you know, from flesh-eating bacteria to E. coli to MRSA to C. diff. It's nasty. But they're treating for mold only. And the process is that they're treating for, everyone is fearful of mold. Well, we're exactly 3 months away from Harvey now. The mold has dried up. As long as you cut the water source, you're going to cut the mold or the danger of mold. What we should be concerned about is mold spores, because those who have second-story houses and they've moved everything upstairs, guess what's going to happen when you bring it downstairs? Jim Jacobus' brother Chuck told a story a couple of years ago about a gentleman that hired a realtor. His wife was going through treatment at MD Anderson, and they did the mold inspections on this multi-million-dollar house, and 6 months after he moved in, he found mold, and took the realtor and the mold inspector to court and won a judgment for $650,000. The mold inspector took his tests and sent it to 2 other labs, and they determined this house did not have mold when he moved in. So the question arose, where did the mold come from? Well, it turns out that this gentleman from the Middle East shipped all of his furniture via cargo into the United States. So it sat in a container, in a very humid, unair-conditioned container for a month before being unloaded into his house. And I think of that every time I drive past a flooded house and I see a pod on the driveway. So they've rescued this furniture, and it's sitting in 100-degree plus weather and Houston humidity, and they're going to move that furniture inside the house. Guess what they're going to have in about 3 to 4 months? So the bleach treatments that I've been hearing about and seeing and attending home do-it-yourself seminars, bleach doesn't kill mold. Bleach doesn't kill the bacteria that exists. The bacteria that exists from this sewage water is sitting, festering, dormant. And when another flood or water occurs, that's basically you're going to be ingesting it and breathing it. What I have found from the big box companies that are doing mold remediation is they do from the water line down. So in my journey to find out how I can get the hell out of the mortgage industry, and get away from underwriters, I found a company that uses chlorine dioxide, and they just modified it to be used for consumer use, for non-commercial use. Chlorine dioxide, which is what's in this container right here, that's a 4-gram, 32-ounce bottle, and when I sprayed it, within 1 second, every germ that was on this chair was killed. And I use it in a gas form in a house. And the importance of using it in a gas form is that it gets into every crack, every crevice, gets behind cabinets, it gets absorbed in the drywall, it's in the cabinetry, in the carpet. It's 100% coverage using gas. Chlorine dioxide is FDA, EPA approved. You come in contact with it every day and you don't know about it. You drink water, chlorine dioxide is used for water treatment centers to sanitize water. Vegetables in the grocery store, it's used to sanitize vegetables. It's used, and now I'm the only company that's using it to decontaminate environments. And what's also been interesting on this journey of mine to create allergen-free, germ-free environments is one side product of chlorine dioxide is it removes odors. So I get calls to remove tobacco, curry, pets. I did a meth house. But it's funny because my calls are to convert smoking to non-smoking, and my process takes anywhere from 2 to 10 hours to convert a house from smoking to non-smoking or to remove curry. But it's an 100%, not 99.9, 100% guaranteed effectiveness to create a sanitized environment. Again, there's no bacteria that's going to exist. Chlorine dioxide, my little product, was used to kill Ebola. It was used to kill anthrax. It kills MRSA. MRSA will sit on a bleach bucket for 20 days dormant in hospitals. So the path that I've been on is to find out, what makes us sick. Why are people touching things and touching their face? We all have friends that you see on Facebook, they're just chronically sick all the time. And my first question is, what are they touching? What are they exposed to? By the way, you know what the dirtiest thing in a bathroom stall is? No. It's the holder of the toilet paper that we set our phones on when we're in the bathroom. When you have to think in terms of a housekeeper. What are they cleaning? They go into the bathroom, they clean the toilet, they clean the sinks, they clean the floors, and they're out. But what do we do when we're or what do y'all do? I don't do that. No. But things that we just don't think about, they won't clean the top of that. In hotels, I talk to a lot of hoteliers, and I ask them, are you confident that your housekeeping staff is not using the same bucket, the same rags to clean the toilet, the shower, and the sink. And they know they are. And again, regardless of the hotel, and I've been to all 300 of them in the Houston area, and they're all clean and don't have problems. But they have a time restriction of a housekeeper going into a room, tearing down a bed, and then cleaning the room and getting out. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And I guarantee you 12 minutes is making that damn bed. But that's what we're exposed to. Also airplanes. You know, we touch things in airplanes. You know, just high volume contaminated places. The chlorine dioxide that I have right here, it's 2.5 times stronger than bleach. And it's not toxic. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I buy it in 500-gram quantities, and I bought it in a 4-gram quantity. And they called me and said, "What are you doing with it?" And I said, "I'm drinking it." And they said, "Don't." And I said, I'm joking. Are people drinking it? They said, "Yes." So they don't advise it. I don't advise it. I wouldn't put my tongue to it. But basically, it does have an antibacterial effect that does help us. So, but there are a lot of new technologies that I'm discovering that are creating sanitized environments where you can turn your house into a germ-free environment. In fact, one of my platforms that I'm adding in January is nanotechnology. I can basically turn a house or a doctor's office or the daycare your children go to into a 90-day germ-free environment and not use any chemistry whatsoever. That's just where we are with technology right now. It's almost like the Earth is solving the Earth's issues. Meanwhile, while the 409s and all the antibacterial sprays have doubled in poison in the last 10 years, because there are 16,000 germs that originate today that weren't around 10 years ago, we're becoming a very poison, toxic society. And now there are new technologies where it's safe and it's not endangering yourself. Bleach, everybody's using bleach. I guarantee it's not going to save your house. 3-4 months from now, we're going to see a lot of black mold coming through air vents. There's one thing about airing out a house. What does mold need to survive? It needs moisture. So it's in the air ducts. And that's one thing about my gas treatment as opposed to the bleach or the ozone or whatever they're using that is 50 to 60% effective, is I walk out knowing I treated 100% effectiveness in this house. And we have the air quality tests that have been done by third parties to prove that it's effective. And what is the best part? It's 1/3 the price. You know, it sounds expensive, but it's not. And to create a germ-free environment is like half of that inexpensive price. But the gassing process, again, takes from 2 hours to 10 hours. And then afterwards, we air out the house, and then it's inhabitable. It's not staying out for 2 or 3 days. There was a hotel that had a fire, and the occupants lived on premise. It was their house as part of this community that burned. And I asked them what their biggest concern was. What's that number 2? I've been talking 18 minutes. Nobody shut me up. Their concern was the smoke from the clothing, and they had a lot of clothing. So we put all the clothing in one room and gassed it, and it took 2 hours, and it was 100% gone. The next day, they had someone from ServPro come out and I referred them to a ServPro friend who did the estimation of repair. That was $150,000 remediation. I asked him, "Did you see anything strange?" I said, "Yeah, one room didn't smell like smoke." And I said, "I did it." And I asked, "How long do you think it took me?" They said, 3 days. I said, 2 hours. They said, "What did you use?" I hung up. I'm just sharing my goods. But anyway, it's been an interesting journey, and I never thought I'd be before realtors again. But I am, and I'm happy to be, part of this and seeing a lot of my realtor friends. And if you have any type of issues, and if you have a family member whose house flooded, call me. I'll take care of you. Because the most important thing is to create a safe environment, a clean environment to go back into, and not all of a sudden have allergies or a house that smells like mildew indoor air is so much more polluted than outdoor air, and there are things that we can do to keep our house from getting us sick. Yes? Hey. Hey, good, thanks.
Good to see you again.
Ditto.
Quick question. The gassing that you have the opportunity to do, can it be done after drywall is already installed, or yes? So for our houses that people put drywall up, what we're concerned too early, you can help us out with that as well.
Thank you. That was one of my points that I skipped. You know what I tell them? Bring all the furniture back in. Let me do a fully furnished house. That way it decontaminates everything. Yes. And that's what I suggest, is once you move everything back in, let me gas it. It does not harm leather, carpet, suede. It's a vapor gas, and it'll sanitize all your possessions. I tell people, open your closets, open your drawers. Let it sanitize everything.
Yes, I have a question. Does that also sanitize the air ducts? I know you were talking about the air ducts. Does the gas get in there, clean everything out, and get rid of all the germs in there?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, we put the air conditioner on recirculate. That way, it'll just refunnel the smoke through it.
Is your product available for sale?
No, I'm a service provider. And the wrong application of it would not help you at all. There's a technique to do it. Not that I couldn't train someone to do it, but basically, I've seen chlorine dioxide for sale at hardware stores, and a lot of it's from China, and I question whether it's half chalk or not. Okay.
Would your product work in a hoarder's home where years of belongings are piled up?
I'm sorry.
Would your product work in a hoarder's home where years of belongings are piled up and mildew exists?
I did a meth home 6 months ago. Someone cooked meth in a house.
Well, I've never seen one. Is that the same thing?
Yeah. I've skunk. I've had the pleasure of removing that odor, and I don't think there's anything worse. Cannabis. So yes, thank you. Okay.
Hi, Ed. Just quick question. For someone who wanted to make this a part of their ongoing routine to keep their home sanitary, how often would they have to have the process done, the gassing process?
Well, the decontamination that I do, and someone asked me, how long is that environment sanitized? And my answer is whenever someone walks in the room, because we carry bacteria and everything on us. The antimicrobial nanotechnology is 90 days, and in some items that are non-friction surfaces, permanently. I mean, imagine having a house treated, and then you put a slab of chicken, raw chicken, down on the counter. Then you pick up the chicken, and then you know that within seconds that bacteria is going to be destroyed.
What kind of state licensing do you have, Ed? Because this is a lot of product placement, and it sounds very good, but what kind of state licensing do you have for mold remediation?
Well, I'm not a mold remediator. However, I have partnered with a mold remediator. Now, there's Governor Abbott lifted the requirements of mold licensing after Harvey, so more people could come in and remediate. But what we do, but here's the thing: we're not allowed to test our own service, so you have a third party come in and do a testing. But yeah, there is a license that is required to be a mold remediator.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, thank you.